Okay, good morning. We are on page 25a, Chaf Hey Amud Aleph, the last two lines. In order to understand what's happening in the last two lines and the top of the next page, we have to go back to our Mishnah, as that is what the Gemara will be commenting on. So let's look at our Mishnah and see what it says. So the Mishnah is a few pages back, on 24a. The Mishnah reads as follows. Mesu lien. If the husbands of any of the qualifying Sotahs died achaloi sasu before they had a chance to drink the water, right? Our Mishnah discusses the various different cases of who qualifies as a Sotah, the nature of the relationship between the husband and wife, the legitimacy of the husband and wife in terms of their own birth, and so on. So all of those that qualify to be a Sotah, what is the law if the husband dies prior to them reaching the temple where she can drink the Sotah water, or prior to drinking the Sotah water, even if they got to the temple? Now we have a problem because Torah says, "Behavior ish," that the husband shall bring her to the temple, and there he shall facilitate that she drink the water. So now that he's gone, what do? So says the Mishnah, dispute between the houses of Shammai and the houses of Hillel, the house of Hillel. The Gemara says as follows. The house of Shammai says, "Good morning, Judge. I'm just going to mute you."
Good morning. So sorry I'm late. I was davening till now. Sorry.
So Beis Shammai says, "Noit lois KETUBAH." She takes her KETUBAH because we don't have any definitive proof that she was unfaithful. She was willing to drink the Sotah water, but now she can't due to the fact that her husband is no longer with us. And lois shoisa, she cannot drink the water. So she can't drink the water, certainly. But the fact that she doesn't drink the Sotah water does not make her lose the KETUBAH. It's not her fault unless she keeps the KETUBAH. Beis Hillel says, "I'm very sorry, but we can't give her the KETUBAH." Why is that? Because either she drinks the water, or she doesn't take a KETUBAH. What Beis Hillel means to say is like this: we're stuck in a bind here. The only way for her to retain her KETUBAH is if she proves her innocence by drinking the water. And because she can't drink the water, because her husband is no longer with us, she loses the KETUBAH. So there's a dispute. The husband dies before she has a chance to drink the Sotah waters. Beis Hillel says, well, they both agree no drinking of the water, but Beis Shammai says she takes the KETUBAH. Beis Hillel says she doesn't. So now let's see the Gemara's comment on that passage of the Mishnah. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question, but I'll reserve it till later.
Sorry?
I have a question, but I'll reserve it.
On this line?
Well, just about Hillel's point of view.
Okay, the Gemara is we'll analyze it, we'll see. Meaning you want to know the why.
No, because there could be other witnesses that come by and prove her innocence.
Okay, so until that point, assuming that none of this exists, assuming no witnesses exist. So if we do know what happens, then
that's why I wasn't really
assuming no witnesses and the only available evidence would be the drinking of the water, which she cannot go through with, and therefore she loses her KETUBAH. This is Beis Hillel's view. Let's see what the Gemara says, the logic behind this. So the last line on Chafei Amud Aleph 25a. The Ma'ikam Mifilgi. What is at the root of the dispute between houses of Shammai and Hillel? Says the Gemara. Beis Shammai Savri, the house of Shammai is of the view that Shtar ha'omed ligbois, a contract that is destined to be collected, meaning the content of the contract, whatever is owed, is destined to be collected. Kegavoy domi, we consider it as if it's already been collected. So to explain what this means. Someone who has a contract, right, where so-and-so owes me, or I owe someone such and such. Let's do it that way. I owe someone such and such. It's such a contract.
But the promissory note, I don't know.
No, there's a regular contract where I lent money and it's a contract. Yeah. Now, the contract is to the point that the one collecting the debt, if the money is not available, then he collects it from the person's assets. Now, the person's assets are in such a lien on the loan, it's like a mortgage, that if this person went ahead and sold his assets, then the creditor can collect it from the purchasers, because those property was a lien to the loan.
Right.
Yeah. This is the halacha. So Shammai says, before when the person has that contract that says so and so owes me X, Y, and Z, because that contract is definitely going to be collected, we consider it as if it's collected already. And therefore, in the case of the ketubah is a contract, it's a loan that says that the husband owes the wife X, Y, and Z. Because it's a contract with a loan that's owed her money. So if the husband dies, she can collect that debt, the ketubah, from his assets, even if he sold his assets. If that's the case, says Shammai, so let's go to our case here, where they're on the way up to the temple for her to drink the Sotah water. We have no definitive proof that she was unfaithful, and he dies. Who effectively owns that property, those assets? Her or his inheritors? He has sons that inherit his money, say. They inherit his estate. So who effectively really owns those assets? So Shammai would argue, because she's holding a contract, and because this contract is definitely going to be collected, or at least when it was given to her, it was definitely going to be collected. So the contract effectively is almost like a deed of ownership to all the assets that are on lien in that loan. And therefore, at the moment of the husband's death, the assets are in her hands. And if the sons want to claim that she was unfaithful and therefore she loses her ketubah, the burden of proof is on them. That's the rule. The rule is the burden of proof is on the one who's trying to extract the assets, right? Whoever has possession of those assets retains that possession until proof is brought that it doesn't belong to that person, right? The one who extracts assets from someone else, the burden of proof is on the one who's doing the extracting. So in this case, when the husband dies, where are the assets in whose possession? In Shammai's view, the contract she has, the ketubah, is so strong, like every other loan. It's so strong that even before I collect it, the assets are partially in my property already. Before I've been collected, because this deed, this contract, which has a lien on all this guy's property, is like it's effectively a deed that says I own it, unless I'm paid out by the loan. That's right. It attaches directly to the assets. And therefore, the moment the husband dies, the assets belong to her to pay off her ketubah. And if the children want to claim that she doesn't deserve the ketubah because she was unfaithful, then it's the burden of proof is on the children to extract the assets. This is Shammai's view. Then we get to the top of 25b, Hillel's view. Beis Hillel Savri, Beis Hillel's of the view that shtar ha'omed legava is a contract that will eventually be collected. Lav kegava dami. We don't consider it as if it's collected. Meaning, when I have that contract in my hand that says so-and-so owes me X, I don't own his property. Only when I come collecting, I can extract the property from him, but I don't have any hold of the property until I do that collecting.
There's no lien by her.
There is a lien,
There is a lien.
but I don't own it. It's not in my possession until I come collecting. Right? There is a lien, which means if the guy can't pay me, I will go collect from his assets. But the paper that I have that says so-and-so owes me X doesn't give me any ownership of the property until such time that I come collect and I need to take the assets. So now in the case of the husband who dies before the woman drinks, in whose hands are these assets? Because her contract gives her right to collect the ketubah, yes, but the property is not in her possession. It's in the husband's possession. And therefore, when he dies, that property goes into his children's possession. And therefore, if she wants to collect the ketubah, she has to prove her innocence to extract it from them. This is what the question comes down to in Hillel and Shammai's view. In whose hands are the assets that are a lien on this ketubah? And whoever's hands they are in, then the other party has the burden of proof is on the other party. So if a contract loan is so strong that I already have possession of the property, because if I have already collected it, and the moment he dies, the assets belong in her hands, And if the children want to extract the money, they have to prove she was guilty of infidelity. Shammai's view. In Hillel's view, her contract does not effectively mean that she owns anything. And therefore, when he dies, the properties and the possessions of his inheritors. And if she wants to extract those assets, she has to prove that she's innocent. Upon whom is the burden of proof? That would depend on upon whom is the assets. Who has possession of his assets at the moment of his death? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you want to say? That's the Kleenex, please. Yeah.
That he has to construct the possession, sort of like a legal possession. Who has legal
That's right.
possession, even though they may not have actual possession.
That's correct.
But who has legal possession
That's right.
at the time of
Who has
death.
legal possession at the time of death? And that will be dependent
And
upon.
whoever has legal possession, therefore, the proof of extract
Is on the other part.
party
That's correct.
to,
That's right. And it comes down to when I'm holding a contract that says someone owes me money, do I have an effective possession on that guy's property? Or do I just have the right to extract his property? If I have effective possession on it, in the moment the person dies, I effectively own his possessions, and his children have got to come extract it from me, right? Or I don't effectively own his possession. I just have a contract that allows me to extract his possession. And if for the moment of his death, and that's right, and then for the moment of his death, that's right. And if for the moment of death, the possession belonged to the children, and my contract and my burden is my proof. But in the case of the KETUBAH, it's different here because it's a question of her faithfulness. And therefore, depending on whose possession these assets are in, either hers or the children, the burden of proof is on the other party.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the Gemara's discussion on that section of the Mishnah. Now we come to the next section of the Mishnah. So perfect timing. You can begin from here and follow. The next discussion in the Mishnah, we'll go back to the Mishnah for a second. Was the question of let's go to the point here. Was the question of a person who shouldn't be married to this woman, but their marriage might be effective. It's an in-between state. I'm being unclear. Let's explain. So case number one, let's go through how many cases are in the Mishnah here. We're Chafemad Beis, 25b. Yeah. So let's go through the few cases here in the Mishnah. If a person married a pregnant woman, or he married a woman who is, so two cases, let's look at two cases. One case is a person marries a pregnant woman and a woman who just gave birth. That's one case. The reason why that's one case is because we mentioned before that a woman who is either divorced or her husband is widowed while she's pregnant or while her baby is not yet 2 years old may not get married until her son is 2 years old. Our sages instituted that a woman should be available to her child for at least 2 years, and therefore she should not get remarried until her child is 2 years old. So if her husband dies or her husband divorces her while she's still pregnant, she can't get married until the baby's 2. Right? But this person went ahead and married her. Yeah. And now he warned her against secluding herself with a certain person. She became a Sotah. Can she drink the water or not? Right. So one view is, well, Torah says you shouldn't be married, so you can't drink the water, right? We have this rule we've established way back that the Sotah is only, the law of the Sotah only applies to a relationship that Torah sanctions. Right? Right? Yes, remember this? Yeah. If Torah doesn't sanction this relationship, no Sotah. Now, in this case, our sages don't sanction the relationship because she should have waited until the baby was 2 years old before she got married. But it's not an entirely problematic relationship because they can divorce now, wait till the baby's 2 and then remarry. So they could be married later. Just right now, they shouldn't be married. And this is a dispute. Sorry? They are married, which is why he warned her and she secluded herself. So she's a Sotah. So she loses her KETUBAH, certainly because she behaved unfaithfully, right? Or she behaved suspiciously, certainly, right? But can she go drink the Sotah waters? Dispute now a Mishnah between Rabbi Meir and the sages as to whether or not she can drink the Sotah water. And this is what the dispute comes down to. The view that says she cannot drink the Sotah waters, the reason is because this is a relationship Torah says you shouldn't be in. Right. Yeah. And the one who says you can drink the Sotah waters is because you're right. Right now, Torah says you can't. But like in a year from now, Torah will say you're okay. So it's not as if Torah is totally against this relationship. It's just temporarily Torah is not in favor of this relationship. Okay, so it still qualifies as a husband and wife that can use a Sotah law. That's case number
In other
one.
words, the marriage is correctable,
Their marriage is correctable. So it's temporarily problematic.
so it's temporarily.
That's right. They can divorce and then remarry in a year and a half from now or 2 years, whenever the baby turns 2. Okay, that's case number one. Case number two is a person who's married to a woman who cannot give birth or to an older lady. These are two cases in which she can't give birth. We're going to get into the Gemara where to discuss different types of women who can't give birth, but the Mishnah is discussing 2 cases. One is a woman who's too old. So once upon a time, she was capable of giving birth, but now she cannot. She's already after menopause. And another one is a woman who from birth is born with whatever is missing, and she can't give birth for that reason. Now, by Torah law, he has an obligation to have children, right? So is this a relationship that Torah sanctions? So get a dispute. One says no, because they can't have children. Therefore, I shouldn't say the relationship isn't sanctioned. We're going to learn the Gemara a different reason. But because they can't have children, therefore they can't qualify as Sotah. One view. And the other view is, well, by Torah law, he can marry more than one woman. So he can remain married to her and then marry a younger woman and have children. Assuming that it's not him that's the one who can't have children. Sorry? He can stay with her, yeah. He can stay with her. So the Gemara is saying that by biblical law, he can marry someone else, and therefore there's no issue with this relationship, and therefore she could be a Sotah. These are the 2 cases of our Mishnah. So now let's go back. Let's go to our Gemara 25b. We'll learn a few lines here. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Abua. Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabbi, son of Abua, Machlekes, this dispute with respect to whether or not a woman who cannot give birth, whether she qualifies as a Sotah, says, not sure what that was, says Rav Nachman in the name of Rabbi Bar Avua, Ba'akara uskena. This is only with respect to a woman who later in life became incapable of having children. Akara means some sort of sickness or something of the sort caused her to not have children. And Zakena is an old woman. So certainly she was once upon a time perhaps capable of having children. Aval an islandess, that's where the dispute is. Whether she can drink or whether or not. One view is she can't have children, no drinking. The other view is, well, he can marry someone else and therefore it's no problem. Aval, but islandess, but a woman who from birth, by nature, from her very birth, she was born incapable of having children. Then, Divrei Hakol, everyone agrees that loy shoisa, she cannot drink the Sotah water, the loy noitless subasa, she cannot take KETUBAH. Okay, so she can't take KETUBAH, we understand, because she behaved suspiciously. But why can't she drink the Sotah water? And why doesn't the same dispute apply? And right, in the Mishnah we had 2 views. Is everybody following me? The Mishnah had 2 views. One view is no, because she can't have children. Another view was, well, he can marry someone else and therefore no problem. So why doesn't that same logic apply to someone who's born incapable of having children? What's the difference if she became incapable later in life or from birth? Says the Gemara, Rav Nachman says, Shenemar, because the verse reads, V'niksa v'nizra zera. The Torah says that if she comes out to be innocent, then she will come clean, she will be cleansed. The Sotah waters doesn't serve as a curse, but serves as a blessing, right? If she's innocent. So v'niksa, this will cleanse her. And v'nizra zera, she will produce seed or offspring, or she would seed offspring. I guess that's a way of translating it. And she'll have children. Which means, therefore, mishadarka lazriya, then therefore, says Rav Nachman, this would mean that the verse is only speaking to someone who's capable of producing seed. Yatzazu, and therefore to the exclusion of this, she by nature is not capable of producing seed.
Yeah, but the whole Sotah drinking is all beyond nature, right?
Quite right.
And I would think the problem would be that if this person knows she's incapable of having children, she may purposely become a Sotah.
So the Gemara is going to discuss that. We'll get to that tomorrow. The Gemara is going to bring up all those points.
Right.
That's very good. But at this point, let's understand Rav Nachman's view,
Right.
which is that the verse states that as part of the blessing, she'll produce seed. So Rav Nachman is reading that this is not just a blessing, it's actually a qualifying statement. It's a qualifying as to who qualifies as a Sotah, someone who's capable of producing seed. Because if the Sotah law concludes that if she's innocent, she produces seed, then the Torah is saying, who's the kind of woman that can take this drink is someone who can produce seed. And therefore, the old lady and the one who became incapable of having children later in life, we have the two views. One view which says she could drink, because once upon a time she was capable of having children, and this guy can marry someone else if he needs to fulfill his mitzvah of having children. A second wife, right? Polygamist, pre the time by biblical law, right? We have a rabbinic ordinance that says we can't have more than one wife, as per Chayim Rabbi Gershom, right? That came much later in history, right? But the islandist, the one who never was capable of having children, says Rav Nachman, everybody agrees she can't drink the Sotah water because she doesn't qualify as per the verse. This is the view of Rav Nachman.
Her husband also find another woman to have children.
That's right. So even though the Mishnah said that according to one view he can marry someone else and that way fulfill his obligation to have children, that doesn't help because she doesn't qualify, considering the verse says only one who's capable of having children. That's Rav Nachman's view. The Gemara is going to challenge Rav Nachman's view, and we're going to leave that for tomorrow because what the Gemara is going to do is the Gemara is going to introduce a text from the Tosefta, right, which is like those Mishnaic age texts that didn't make it to the final cut of the Mishnah. So it's a more elaborate version of our Mishnah. And in this more elaborate version of our Mishnah, we'll get more details to these laws about the person who married the pregnant woman, the person who married the woman who just gave children, and the different types of women who can't have children. And there specifically, the text is going to list a woman who can't have children from birth, born that way. And she too is on the list of the dispute. And this is going to be a challenge to Rav Nachman's position. And along the way, we're going to introduce all the arguments that you just made, which is what kind of blessing does the Torah give? And does that mean we're encouraging all these women who can't have children to walk around behaving unfaithful so that they can manipulate the system to have children? The Gemara is going to discuss that, God willing, tomorrow. But I'll just give you my little case. So I'm going to break my own rule. I always say that don't insert your own opinions. Listen to the Gemara's opinion. But I'm going to break my rule and insert my own opinion here and say, you know what? Let Torah give a system that allows women to cheat to have children. Good. And let all women take advantage of it. Be very happy with that. If I can inject my little opinion here. Okay, so more on that, God willing, coming tomorrow. Wonderful day.
Rabbi. Have a good day and a good week with God's help to all of you. We wish you all the very best to you all. You should go for 10%. Thank you. Thank you.